Hi, Karen.
Hi, Michelle.
I'm here with Karen Mankoff. Dr. Karen Mankoff is a psychologist with a private practice in Los Angeles. She has a specialty in child and adolescent psychotherapy. She has a PhD in clinical child psychology and did a fellowship in clinical child and adolescent psychotherapy. She has a master's in architecture from SCI-ARC and a master's in Russian language and a bachelor of arts in Russian and Soviet studies. Currently, she works as a psychologist remotely from home. I've known Karen for probably 26 years now. I met her initially at in an ARCA Moms play group that was started by one of our mutual friends, Ann Sussman. And we both have 3 children who are now adult children. And this is the 11th interview that I've had during work from home, the 13th blog. And because of Karen's experience in psychology, I'm asking her some questions about, how do we move on? How do we manage the work from home? And just that. so how are you doing, Karen?
I'm doing okay. This has been a really challenging time for everybody. And I think that that's no different for me. I'm living at home with my husband and my 3 adult children and trying to find, I think, private time and space is challenging for all of us. And also it's about managing all of our anxieties about the pandemic, what we can and can't do, and what we expect from the other people who are around us. But having to transition from working in person with people to working remotely, there's this aspect of separation that we're too close with all the people we're living with, and we're too distant from all the people that we're to work with. So I think that's been a big part of the challenge. But helping as a psychologist, helping people in my work manage their anxieties around what's happening right now has been really difficult.
Okay. Yeah.
I've got the anxieties too. We've all got the anxieties, and just helping everybody to kind of hang in there.
Yeah. Recently, I went on this happy hour for this for group the Young Architects kind of like academy, and I had been a panelist on like a parents in architecture panel over at their summer virtual series. And we had the happy hour, and we were kind of talking about, we had breakout rooms, and we were kind of talking about like, okay, how are we in the new year, how are we going to do? And I'm like, well, I think I'm going to try to lower my expectations of other people even of my adult children, because I tend to think that they're adults and they should be able to like handle things. And, this is new to them. It's new to me. And I think that I overestimate what I feel that I should be getting from them. And so maybe kind of, ease off of that, and, and ease off of like the expectations that I have of myself. So.
Yeah. I think that's pretty common. I work with a lot of children. I work with adults and children, but when I work with children and adolescents, I also work a little bit with their parents, because parents will say, I'm really concerned about this. I have parents all the time contacting me to say, why isn't my child doing as well in school as they usually do? Why are they staying in their room all the time? Like they're expecting normal behavior in a not normal time. So I have to help them with how to understand that, their child it's not normal for them to have school remotely and have to try to manage all their relationships, their friendships remotely. That's a time when they should be going out and having, interactions with their friends in person. And this is all not normal. So if they're reacting to it, that's normal. And it would be better for the parents to try to be understanding of that than to have their own anxiety take over. And why aren't they performing how I expect?
Yeah. 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 So, what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture? And you've had like a wonderful experience of being like a native Angelino, which is very rare, and growing up in like a wonderful area of Los Angeles, Santa Monica Canyon, and
Yeah, so it's interesting because I don't have it's not like I grew up always wanting to be an architect. I've obviously had a bit of a checkered past. And and
just as far as your pursuit of education. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like to learn, and I've had different kinds of interests, but I try to find a common theme to my my sort of path. And the common theme has been that I've always been interested in people. And so when I was in high school, I studied foreign languages. I studied French and Spanish. I went to college and I was like, I'm either going to study foreign languages or I'm going to study art. I ended up starting out college as a fine arts major at Cornell in the College of Architecture, Art and Planning. So my classes were all in one wing of the architecture school. So I had, walking through the architecture school, seeing what these people were doing, and wow, this is amazing. They're building these things. This is great. And also right next to the wing of the school where my classes was the Cornell Museum. Okay. That was, and I can't remember who designed it, but it was someone that I should remember. And
I can't remember either.
So here I was in this very traditional old university with this very modern museum that looked like, everybody described it as a piano tipped on its side. And I would look at it and go like, wow, does that belong here? That's interesting. So that's something that when I was in college, I always was kind of like, do I like it? Do I not like it? And I don't think I ever decided, but I think I was interested in the fact that you could juxtapose different time periods in that way with architecture. So that was one thing. Going back to when I was younger, I grew up in Santa Monica Canyon, right near Ray Cappy's own house and several other houses that he had designed. And that was kind of like the canyon architecture, the canyon modern architecture, I would say, in the 70s.
Oh yeah, that's a great house. I can remember we went to that. I'm trying to find that but I can't find it on my phone. Yeah, we went to see that during one of the AIA, Los Angeles, West Side tours or something. We went to go see his house, and I don't even know whether, I guess it was completed by that point. Was it kind of like always in process, or?
I think he built it probably in the early 70s. Uh-huh. Or sometime in the 70s. When I was in architecture school, we toured it. Uh-huh. So that was in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was already kind of a thing that like, you got to see Ray Cappy's house. Okay. But when I was growing up in the 70s, that was like, that's the kind of home that people wanted in the canyon, like this very natural blending with the outside. And that was sort of normal to me when I was growing up. But so as I got older and finished college and all that, I was just always really intrigued by houses because I loved seeing how people lived. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would go in open houses all the time or take walks in neighborhoods and just like to look at all the different kinds of houses. But I also had, back to my interest in people, I would go in an open house later with my husband. We'd go through open houses just for fun, and we'd come out of the house and I'd tell him everything about the people who lived there. Yeah. Everything. He'd be like, what? How do you know all of this? You look at the books, you look at how they live, you can just tell by things on the wall. You can just tell so much about people by how they live. So after I went to SCI-ARC, and my husband and I met him at SCI-ARC, we worked together designing houses. When we would meet, I loved especially our initial meetings with our clients because it was all about learning how they live.
Absolutely. And yeah.
You learn so much. It's so personal. Mm-hmm. And so now I mean, I'm a psychologist. What am I learning? I'm learning about how people live, but it takes it further because it's about more how they think and how
Yeah.
they interact with each other. But so much of that was also interesting in helping design people's homes, because so much of it is about how they interact with each other, how they make decisions, how
Mm-hmm.
they, and how they get along. Because you
Uh-huh.
could talk a lot
Yeah.
about a couple by how they talk about what they want, their dream for their home. And
Yeah.
so, like, how they want to live in the future, how they want to evolve their relationship in this new space. So all of that to me was all very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Where they want the bed in the room, and then where, what the kind of significance of the kitchen is, and whether they really use the kitchen, or whether they just want a really nice kitchen, but they don't cook in it. And whether they want, a dining area where there's a dining room table, but are they really ever sitting at the dining room table? I mean,
Right.
I'm sure now they probably are. Maybe.
Now I think people are using every space in their house. Yeah. And I feel like this time, I don't want to hijack one of your future questions, but maybe I am. I think in the future, all of our designing is going to be more about separating people than about opening things up, which I think we were progressing towards opening things up, having all these open workspaces and open.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And now I think it's more about, having privacy and having, giving you the ability to be separate from other people because of the possibility of getting sick and getting germs from.
Yeah.
And it's sad because psychologically what people need is to be connected and feel close to people and safe in that way. And so they're sort of at odds with each other.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, because I mean, I even do it when I'm like meeting with clients now about like these spaces. It's like a lot of times people still will be saying, because we haven't really, they do want to start opening things up, and I'm like, well, before start opening things up, remember that, like, if we have to go through this again, or like what we've experienced from this, and people have to, if they're all meeting in different rooms on their virtual right? Virtual work. It's like you can't have everybody all in one room. It's like, here I am in the house, right? And my kid goes into the kitchen right now, and he starts opening up cabinet doors, and I'm like, wait, stop. And the way that my home office is, it's kind of like open to everything else. I don't have it blocked off with any kind of walls or doors. So it's like, I just have to tell everybody to be quiet. But I don't want to go, a lot of people are, meeting in their bedrooms, right? Virtually meeting in their bedrooms, but then they've got the bed in the background, and that's kind of an odd thing.
Right. You want to have separate spaces. It's definitely we're going from separate spaces. We went to opening up. Now we're going to move back to separate spaces, and all these workspaces, public workspaces that people rent, and there's just desks all over. That's not really going to work anymore. I think. I mean, maybe, I don't know how people work that out with sound and needing privacy and all that. So it's really interesting, but it's kind of heartbreaking at the same time. Yeah.
So what are 3 classic buildings that you like, and why?
Oh, wow. Let's see. So I want to go back to that art museum at Cornell. And I don't think it's that I liked it so much as it affected me. And it was just such a juxtaposition that I enjoyed it. And that's something I think that still affects me. Like, there's some areas of Europe you can go and you'll see these old, pre-war buildings. And then an architect has come and done something really modern, added onto it. I've always really liked the juxtaposition of 2 very different eras.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I can see it's the Johnson Museum of Art, but I can't see who the architect is.
You find it. Yeah, the Johnson Museum. And I feel like it's someone we're going to go, oh, of course, but I can't. I can't remember. And of course, I wasn't in architecture at that time, so I wouldn't have known. Let's see. Beyond that, I remember visiting the Salk Institute and just really loving the peacefulness of the spaces between the buildings, and how buildings can create a space. Like, it doesn't have to be inside the building.
Yeah.
But the exteriors. And then I remember visiting the Conn Library at Exeter, so at some point on the East Coast, and just really liking the materials that he used, the wood and the concrete, and having it be modern, but also not what I consider to be typically modern. There was sort of an old, like, kind of earthiness to it. But
okay. Yeah, I wonder, did was Annie Ting involved during that time, during the Exeter Library, or not? Do you know or remember? I don't remember either whether she had that much to do, because I know that she did have a lot to do with a lot of his projects that kind of, she's kind of been like right behind the scenes or whatever with it. Okay, so what do you like about being an architect? And we've decided that it'll be like, how do you feel your training as an architect affects your practice as a psychologist?
Wow. Okay. So what do I like about being an architect? So I have a degree in architecture. I do still consider myself to have the sensibilities that came with that training, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
I loved architecture school.
I agree.
I loved architecture. I loved architecture school much more than I enjoyed the practice of architecture. But I think that that whole aspect that I spoke about a few minutes ago of learning about people and how they live and how they experience spaces, and how spaces can influence people. I think that's the part that was always most interesting to me. As far as, and I just feel like there's kind of a way that's affected my thinking and my feeling that's hard to put into words, but I feel like it's just a way of understanding, humans.
Yeah.
And then my study in psychology, that, takes it another step further. So as far as how it affects my practice as a psychologist, I just can't even explain how it would. I know it's in there, but I can't. That's not something I can. I haven't put enough thought into that to be able. Do
you feel like your office is set up more conducive to kind of like the therapist client?
Well, it's
relationship.
That's funny because I didn't think of it in this way, but so when I moved into my office, which I'm not in now because I'm working from home, but I found an office building that would allow my husband and me to design the space for the office. Because I'm like, I can't just walk into an office and say this works. Like, I wanted it to be the way I really wanted it. And so the space is all, I think, very well designed, well used. Like there isn't like extra dumb space, like things that architects would think about. But when people come in to see me in my practice, sometimes they comment on the colors I use and just the feeling of the space and things that I think people aren't used to necessarily feeling when they go into a therapist's office. So not only do you get me, but you get, my training as an architect that makes the whole experience the best it can be in my perspective.
I can remember I went to, and I mean, I knew you at this point, but uh, I went to a therapist. I went to a therapist in Santa Monica, and I think one of the things that was like really bothered me about the space is that she had like a really small space, and it was like in somebody else's space, but literally it was like it seemed like she said, "Okay, I want this many square feet," and it was like the width of a couch, and then like 20 or 30 feet deep. And I was laughing because I mean, like when I came in and sat down, like that was like my first thing was like, this is really an odd space. And I told her that. And she probably thought like as a, I mean, as a, as a therapist or so, I mean, she obviously thought her space was fine. I mean, she was doing the thing, but I was like really, I wasn't comfortable in it, I felt like I was at the end of I was at the end. The back of the couch was up against the window, so I couldn't really see. And I just could see the door,
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So as a therapist, I think you need to think about a lot of things. The relationship of the door to where you're sitting and where the client is sitting. You need to think about the light and where it's going to come in and where it's going to hit you or where it's going to hit the client, and if they're going to be comfortable that way, what they're going to see if they're looking out the window. You need to think about so many things. I know therapists are not trained for this, but I happen to be. So I'm going to be sensitive to all those things. And then people who come in to see me are going to be like, oh, it feels so nice in here.
Yeah.
And my office, some people do prefer like a small office because they like the intimacy. My office is not too tiny because I see children, so I need space for toys and playing. I also have my desk in there, but I created what I think is an intimate space for conversations where I have a couch and chairs and all with a rug to anchor it. And it all feels, I think, intimate, even though it's not a very small space. So there are things I think that I definitely thought about that is not what everybody would think about.
Yeah. And of course, dealing with children, I know you have to have kind of the area where they can kind of go and explore, pick toys that they want to be able to,
and I have to have a separate little child-sized table that they can sit at and draw or play. So, house and all those things. So they're different areas so kids can feel comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's another therapist that like another person in our family was seeing, but anyway, they had no windows and it was really bothersome. And I know that the person it was pretty small. And I mean, the person's a great therapist, but the space is
I just think it all helps. You want people to have the experience that you want them to have and not have something that doesn't feel quite right, because that's going to affect how they're feeling in the space, and that's all important. It's all relevant.
Yeah. And one of the things that Karen, I mean, that I can see that you guys can't see is Karen years ago, before the home edit and all of these other organizational shows came on Karen organized all of her books according to color. So I mean, it's just amazing because you look, and then Karen, what did you say that like certain when people look at it, they're amazed by your books that are behind you. Yeah.
So working from home now, I had to set up a little area, and you have to think about the background, and I want people again to feel comfortable and, not feel like it's chaotic or whatever. The best place for me was in front of my bookshelf. So I arranged my books in color behind me, and especially the little girls that I see say exactly this. They say, "I love your rainbow books." And I'm very happy to have it looks much better to see my rainbow books behind me than to see, just books that I think it's a little chaotic when there are all different colors. And I love books, so I think books always look good, but I wanted to try to make it look a little bit more soothing in a way. So the rainbow books work.
Yes. So what would you like to say about the future of architecture?
I think it's going to be interesting how this time of the pandemic is going to influence people's designs moving forward, both for designing homes and as far as offices, because I do think there's going to be more of a separation of people, more ability for privacy and therefore safety. I think germs are going to come into play much more than they ever have. How can I be safe from germs? How can I get from my car to my office with interacting with as few people as possible if need be? And that's very sad because, people need that connection and they need to be social. And this is going in the opposite direction of that. But I think people are going to have to work a little harder to be social. And I imagine there may be continued opportunities for social interaction via the internet, which is not as satisfying, but we're so lucky we have it, because otherwise how cut off we'd be. But it's not the way ideally for our psychological health that it would be. We would be together more.
Yeah. And I mean, even like touch, right? Like touch, even when you meet people, you can't touch them, right? It's like you can't get that close to them, or you do get that close to them, but it's like, okay, it's like we're masked, it's like, I don't want to get too close to you, it's like, am I in your space that is now like 6 feet apart, as opposed to like, am I in your space that used to be like a foot or, 2 feet or something.
Well, I've heard people say that shaking hands might be a thing of the past. Like shaking hands just isn't going to happen anymore. And that's sad,
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah. Like the COVID hug of like a shoulder or something, like a shoulder or a fist bump or something. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting though that, for so long they were thinking, people are so, detached. They're going to go into like this, into the future, as far as like that they're not going to be needing any human contact at all, right? They'll be so far removed from that. And this is kind of like, proven that like, no, people actually do still crave, other human contact. So,
well, that's our nature, is we need physical and emotional connection. So
yeah.
That's the upsetting part about all of this. It's moving away from what we need by nature.
Yeah. So how do you think that we should be able to, I don't know, like how should we be able to handle this in the next couple? I was talking on the phone with somebody from our executive director of AIA, and I was saying like, well, when the next conference opens, it's like, well, the conference is in September. And then she's like, I don't, Michelle, I don't think that, I don't think we're going to like start having things until maybe like 2022. And I was like, what? And I was like, I mean, for me, it was like, no, wait a second. It can't be 2022. It's like, I like need to be around people.
No, it's true. People need hope to be sooner rather than later. It's hard to know. I think that in the future, there probably are going to be more things just offered online so that people don't have to, because it's hard also to plan a whole in-person event and then switch it to online. So maybe things in the future, if they can be in person, they'll also be offered online so that they can cancel one part of it, but keep it going. I don't know. Or just so for people who still don't feel comfortable being in large crowds, there may be people who really just aren't comfortable in large crowds, even when the pandemic is over.
Yeah. Or even, I mean, it's kind of traveling to these things, right? I mean, it's like, I don't feel comfortable getting on a plane, it's like, I just don't, so, and then even when I travel, it's like when I travel, and I mean, one of the things is like, right. So I went to Joshua Tree and stayed at an Airbnb, because I was like, well, I don't want to stay at a hotel. And then I didn't even want to stay in the park in a tent, because then I'd have to use the public restroom, and it's like, so it's like I didn't want to do that. So I was in a house, an Airbnb house, totally by myself, for my birthday actually. And then I was going, I was going into the park every day, and, still people on the trails, they had masks on, and, they would avoid, right. Everybody would avoid each other, when you would cross paths with them on the trail and stuff. But, it's like I was like, well, I guess I could go out maybe, to pick up stuff, but then, and then one of those, the thing that I cannot stand the drive-through. So this has been like, I don't go out to eat that often, but I hate the drive-through. And then to like be in the drive-through, and then you're like, oh, now I'm going to eat in my car. I'm like, why would I don't want to eat in my car. I don't want to and the whole thing, to me, the whole thing about going out to like eat is to like going out to eat to eat at a place,
Happy.
Yeah. So, so I don't want to go out and bring the food to my house, because that's like not the same experience.
Yeah.
or I don't, it's like I think I'm one of the few people that like drinks less now than I did before, even though I didn't drink that much. But it's like my daughter's not in the house, and then the boys don't drink. So it's like I'm not going to drink by myself in the house. And I would go out, like if I was at a social event, then I would have a glass of wine. But it's like I don't feel like, it's just not the same experience for me to like just be, because there isn't anybody else around that I'm just not going to sit there. Yeah. But okay. Well, is there anything else?
I think we covered everything.
Okay.
From my end, unless you're curious about anything else.
Oh, about your painting.
Oh. So, okay, so this is another thing that's been pretty interesting with the pandemic and being home so much, that I went back to painting, which I really love, drawing and painting. But of course, what I love to draw and paint is people. Mm-hmm. So I always used to take life drawing classes, but I discovered early in the pandemic that there were a lot of schools that had offered life drawing classes that to help people get through the pandemic. They were offering classes by Zoom. So there would be a model. So I was taking classes through a school in London, an art school in London, that would find models that they knew that would be, the model could be in Paris, or the model could be in Italy or Russia, and everybody would be on Zoom, including the model. So you'd be drawing at the same time, the same model in a totally different time zone with people all over the world, and having the same experience. Then the model, would finish the pose, and then we'd all talk about it or show our work. And
it was great, Karen. I didn't know. Your paintings are, I really love them, but I didn't realize like where you were getting them from. Yeah. So
some of them, I do a combination of these classes, and then there are some online platforms that you can find photographs. You can subscribe and get photographs.
Okay.
So there's also a lot of that. It's a combination. But so I could sit and like on a Saturday morning, I could be drawing a model that was posing in Paris at evening. And it was pretty fun. It's a pretty interesting way to do it. But I do think a lot of things have opened up opportunities for people to interact and be together in ways that we wouldn't be able to be together. I could be with all these artists all over the world and looking at each other's work.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I took when I was younger, a lot younger, I used to take ballet. You probably took ballet too. Did you take ballet, Karen?
When I was really young. I'm no ballerina.
Like elementary school, right? Elementary school?
Yeah, or younger, yes.
Yeah. So I did it in elementary school. I had probably like in 5th and 6th grade or something, or 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And I really did enjoy it. It was more like that, by that time people were more into track and like other types of sports and like that. But I really liked classical ballet. But what I found online on Instagram was, and then I'd actually watched the Netflix for it's Wendy. I forget her last name, but anyway, it was all about like her progression. She was a classical ballerina at the New York Ballet, the American Ballet Theater, I believe. And of course, she had to have surgery, right? The older that she got, because their body starts to break down. So she had this surgery, and then it was like, okay. And then they were kind of telling her like, okay, we don't want you, to be dancing anymore, right? I mean, she said it was like it was kind of a passive aggressive approach, like they just wouldn't invite her to the practices and things. And and it was her like kind of like saying, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do, because this isn't right. When you're a ballerina and it's something physical like that is your life, like that. And so she had to like try to find some other way, so she kind of started her own dance company and things. So somebody through that, they started doing these online ballet classes. So I did like take one, and it was more, the thing is that I realized after the first one that I was gonna have to try to set up my house more, because it's like you can't do ballet like floor exercise. You can't do it from your laptop. You have to take your laptop down and thing. So but I am going to start to do it. But it was interesting because, again, like, right, you're like taking ballet classes with like all of these different people. Yeah. And then like one woman, right, she's an older woman that's in New York. And she was like, I'm just going to sit this one out because I don't feel like doing it, but I love your classes, right? She had like taken other classes, but it was, I mean, it was very cute. And it was, it was neat to like do something that
my daughter has been doing online ballet, online yoga, online kickboxing, and working out with a trainer, all with her laptop, by Zoom or FaceTime or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the good thing that's come out of this is that people have figured out ways to keep working and offering, ways that people can keep doing what they enjoy doing. So I think that's been, one thing that's been nice. Yeah. And I'm hoping that we can still continue some of this. I mean, getting people together from all over the world to do something like draw is an amazing thing. Even when they can reopen in person, I hope that some of these things can continue to bring in people from not just their own physical area.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think that it's good. I think that the whole thing about how, a lot of firms were saying that like women, or parents couldn't work from home because it was going to be too difficult. And, I mean, you and I, like, I mean, we worked from home like years and years ago. Right. So, I mean, but it was kind of a novel approach. I mean, people, in the field of architecture probably didn't think of as, I mean, I felt like I don't think that people felt that, that we were kind of as worthy or as serious because we were working from home and had kids. And, I mean, it's like, I kind of say like, when we had kids, I mean, there weren't that many architects that were having kids at that time. And they certainly weren't like, with their kids and working at the same time, kind of. There wasn't really that, that fluid. So it's kind of nice that, that people do have the option now. I mean, of course, many people said like, oh my God, the second that my office opens up, like I want to get out of the house. Like, I don't want to do this. I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't want to, and it's like, well, I mean, you're pretty much like, I mean, the things that right. It's like some things you're a stay-at-home mom anyway, right? Regardless of whether, people are kind of categorizing you as a stay-at-home mom. I mean, you're still gonna have to take care of your kids like that. Maybe you just need more time out of the house, or you can still, I mean, that's what I've told people, like you can still leave the house, like go take a walk. I mean, look on your street. There's probably not that many people out there walking around. Yeah. Unless you're in a very dense urban area or something. But I mean, even, I've been in, I've driven through downtown San Diego, and I don't see that many people out even, like during the day or, yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully, I know we're trying to find some other things to, to do for the custom residential architecture network, just as far as, kind of doing that. Maybe we'll kind of pick up on these kind of, I don't know, maybe there's some type of like sketch problem or something, or some type of, I don't know, maybe you can brainstorm with me and try to come up with some type of residential architecture problem that we can do online as opposed to, yeah. Pardon me?
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Karen. And I'll put all of your information and then some of your paintings in the blog, so people can get a hold of you if they want. And then just hold on. I'll stop the tape and then